Over the last 3 years, I've generated over $700,000 in assignment fees and actually closed more than $5 million in total real estate transactions, just wholesaling real estate. Last week alone, my company just deposited another $40,000 check from a deal that we did, and our average assignment fee per deal is about $25,000. Now, I'm not saying any of this to impress you. I'm saying this so you understand how effective this system is and how it works. For those of you who don't know who I am, what's up guys? My name is Gunnar Morgan, and in this video, I'm going to show you the exact marketing, sales, and dispositions process that I use in my company right now to consistently close $15,000 to $30,000 deals every single month. But before we go any further in this video, let me be very clear. If you guys want to shortcut the learning curve and have me help you close your first $30,000 deal one-on-one directly with me, there's a link in the description to book a private call with me, like I said, one-on-one. Now, this call is for people who want real help closing deals or scaling their business to $50,000 per month consistently. Now, if you're serious, click the first link below and book the call with me. But if you'd rather do this on your own, keep watching, because in this video, I'm breaking down exactly how my company generates motivated seller leads every single day, the sales framework that we use in the business to get contracts signed, and how we underwrite those deals correctly. But not only that, I also show you how I run my dispositions team to maximize our assignment fees. Now, you don't need any experience, you don't need some big fancy team, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel at all. You guys just need to execute the process and be consistent. So with all that being said, let's jump right into the training. So this is going to be the only wholesaling course that you guys need to succeed. But before we jump into it, who am I and why should you even learn from me to begin with? Well, my name's Gunnar Morgan. I'm 25 years old and I've been in the industry just under 3 years now. Okay. And I've closed multiple six figures per year wholesaling real estate. Here's a couple of checks that we've done just this year. And so you're probably sitting there wondering, what even is wholesaling? All right, well, I'm going to give you guys a brief rundown of what wholesaling is if you're brand new and have never even heard of the concept before. So wholesaling is essentially, there is a rundown house. Let's put an X right here because it's dirty. All right, so we have a rundown house or just a normal house, and you go to this homeowner and you offer them, let's say $100,000 for the house. All right, let's say the house fixed up is worth $200K. But you offer them $100,000 for their property, okay? Well, if they agree, you sign a contract, and now you guys are under contract to purchase this property for $100,000. Now you're probably wondering, well, wait, I don't have $100,000. Well, that's okay, because you don't need $100,000 in your bank account. You can literally do this with $0 in your bank account. So you go under contract to purchase it for $100,000. In this contract, you have an assignment clause that allows you to make this agreement assignable. So now you go out and find Joe. Now Joe is a home buyer who likes to fix up properties. This is Joe. You take this property to Joe and you say, hey Joe, I have a property that I'm selling for $120,000. If you're interested, I'll assign it over to you. He goes and looks at the property. He says, oh wow, that's a good property, Gunnar. I'm interested at $120,000. So now you and Joe sign a separate agreement assigning your rights over to the property for $120K. And then on closing day, you're going to make the difference between $100,000 and $120K, which is $20,000. Now, a brief overview shows you that this is how wholesaling works. So our main objective is to find someone who's interested in selling their property for a discounted price. Now, once we find that property and we get it under contract for a discounted price, we then go out and find a buyer who's interested in buying the property for more than what we have it under contract for. And in the end, you make the middle spread. So this was a brief example of how wholesaling works. Let's get into learning how you can go out and run this business and what all you need to run a successful wholesaling business. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so to run your wholesaling business, you're going to have three main parts, and I'm going to break it down step by step. The first part is marketing. And if you're new to business, you're probably like, what the heck is marketing? Well, marketing is going to be the entire engine of the business, right? We want to get in front of as many people as possible to know who we are. So there's two different ways you can run marketing when you start out wholesaling. You have the paid way and you have the free way. The paid way is you're going to run Facebook ads. Now, this is what I run in my business right now. We basically put ads all over Facebook and Instagram, and we target homeowners that are in distress. We run ads targeting foreclosure, probate, divorce, you name it. Okay. Now, that's a good way to run marketing. So generally what the marketing aspect is we're getting in front of as many homeowners as we can, and we're letting them know like, hey, we're interested in buying properties if you're interested in selling your property. Okay. And then we have Google PPC, we have SMS, and we have cold calling. Now, I think all of these are great ways. We can text blast people with SMS, or we could cold call prospects to see if we can generate some leads to see if they're interested in selling their property. Now, all of these ways are really good ways to get in front of homeowners. However, let me break down the specifics of each way. So with meta ads, like I said in the beginning, we're running ads to directly target people who might be in distress. Now, what that means is if somebody has just inherited a property, or they're going through a divorce, or they're facing pre-foreclosure, we run ads directly to target those people. Google PPC, I've never ran Google PPC. I'm here to tell you that firsthand. However, there are PPC websites and PPL websites. PPC meaning pay per click, PPL meaning pay per lead. Now, there's many pay per lead websites like iSpeed to Lead, for example. Great website. You can go and buy motivated seller leads. And these are people who have already shown interest and raised their hand like, hey, I want to sell my property now. PPC, for example, is just pay per click, running SEO ads, things like that. Not the biggest fan. I've never done it. Maybe I'll get into it in the future. But that's something that I wouldn't really recommend if you're just starting out. However, SMS and cold calling, all you're doing with SMS is you're text blasting prospects who might be interested in selling. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of, let's say, PropStream and Batch Leads and Deal Machine, things like that. Well, you basically pull list from those websites and then you upload it into a service where you can text blast these homeowners. So you'll send a text. Generally, first text you'll send is like, hey, this is Gunnar. Are you interested in selling your property on 123 Main Street? Now, typically you have a VA who handles all of the text messages for you. But if you're doing this yourself, you just go in there, respond to these people, set up an appointment, and things like that. And you're going to run into a lot of people who might say no or F off, etc. But the people who say yes, you count those as a lead, and you get on the phone with those people and you make them an offer. Okay? And then cold calling, the same thing. You're cold calling a list of prospects who may or may not be interested in selling. And by doing that, you're trying to filter out the people who aren't interested versus the people who are interested. And the people who are interested, you count those as a lead. Same thing, you call those people and you give them an offer. So that's a general outline of paid. Now let's go into the free version. Now the free version, you can go to Facebook groups, you can go to Zillow for sale by owner, you can do driving for dollars, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of, or you can do agent outreach. Okay. Now, Facebook groups, you're going to run into a lot of wholesalers looking to daisy chain, etc. I wouldn't really recommend it if you're just starting out, but definitely join these Facebook groups and just see how it all works. Go in there, get a feel for it, see how people are doing business. And it's mainly the people who show up a lot who are the people who are the most consistent and the most reliable in those groups. Now, Zillow for sale by owners, this is pretty simple. Pretty self-explanatory as well. You just go on Zillow, you look at the for sale by owner tab, and these are people who are trying to sell their property themselves. So they already have some sort of interest in selling their property. Apparently, they just didn't want to go through an agent or deal with an investor or whatever the case may be. Maybe they thought they could do it themselves. But the issue with for sale by owner, and I'm here to tell you this if nobody's ever told you this, for sale by owner people think that they're selling the property themselves. And when they do that, when you list a property on for sale by owner, it doesn't show up on the MLS. So if you're listing if a homeowner is listing their property, they think they're going to get max exposure because it's on Zillow for sale by owner. Well, they're not. They're only getting exposure from people who look at that tab specifically. But so it's a good way to go in there and pitch to them that you can get it sold if you can make connections with buyers, etc. Now, driving for dollars, you're going to spend some money in gas, but you're also going to spend a lot of time driving around your city looking for properties that are run down. You can put some sticky notes on their door. You can write their address down. And from there, you just market to them. So you can call from your cell phone. You can call from another phone, whatever it is, or you can text them, right? So that's what driving for dollars is. And then agent outreach, it's pretty good. However, you're targeting agents, and agents aren't really the biggest fan of wholesalers. Now, so when you target those types of people and you basically see if they have any pocket listings or any listings that they need to get sold, again, you have to come in a lot lower than where the homeowner is. And then you have to find a buyer who's willing to pay more for the property than what you have it under contract for. It's worked. I've seen it work. It's a great marketing source if you can find a good agent that wants to work with a wholesaler. Now, the whole goal of marketing is to get in front of as many homeowners as you can. That's our goal here. We want people to know who we are, and we want people to know what we're doing. We're buying properties, we're investors, we're looking to buy your property, right? I just showed you a bunch of different marketing strategies that you can go out and use today. However, the most important thing in marketing that I want you guys to understand, and I can't stress enough, is pick one channel. I'm going to put a star beside this because it's so important. Pick one channel and stay consistent for 90 days. I would even say 100 days. Stay consistent for 100 days straight of that one marketing channel, or pick two. It's fine. You can mix cold calling and SMS together. There's nothing wrong with that. You can pick Zillow for sale by owner and Facebook ads. It's perfectly fine. Just whatever you choose, stick with it for 100 days straight, because consistency and tracking your data is what's going to allow you to grow in this business. Okay, so for the people who come in, they do cold calling for a month, they try to do agent outreach for a month, they try to do for sale by owner for a month. That's 3 months that just went by, 90 days that went by. And if they would have stayed with cold calling for 90 days straight, they probably would have landed on a deal. But since they didn't see returns in their first month, they get discouraged and they think, oh, it doesn't work. It must not work. If you guys didn't see my previous video, I showed you how we got one deal. It was a 431x ROI deal that we did. We spent $87 for the list. And then we ended up making $37,000 on one deal that came from that list, but it was 117 days apart from the time we got the lead to the time we got it sold. So guys, if you stay consistent for 100 days straight with one or two marketing channels, there's no way you can't succeed. And then from there, you have the data from you doing it. Now you can go and repeat the process and do it again. That's how you sustain this business. And this is what a lot of beginners should avoid. You should definitely avoid switching your marketing channel every 3 days or every month, whatever it is, right? And then also learn the type of people who you're marketing to. For example, I pulled a probate list in my last video and I broke down how we made a $37,000 spread on one deal from that list. And a lot of people will think like, oh, well, I can just go pull a probate list. Well, understand what a probate is. It's someone who inherited a property. Now, if you don't know the mechanics of what that list actually contains, then you're probably going to run into a lot of issues and you're not going to know what the steps are and the strategies and things like that. And you're going to say it doesn't work. So learn what type of list you're marketing to. Don't just follow what somebody else is doing if you don't know what it is, right? So that's a big one. So at a high level, that's marketing. That's typically all you need to know. I don't want to go too into depth where you're overthinking and you have so much information that you don't know what to do with it. Here it is right here. Pick one of these marketing channels, learn about it, and run with it. Okay, so that's the marketing aspect of this business. Now let's jump into the second aspect, which is sales. Okay, everybody needs a very effective sales process. And what a sales process is, following the same process for each lead that comes into the door every single time, right? So how we do it is from our marketing, when a lead comes in, we make sure to call this lead in 5 minutes or less. Okay, and then our job is to qualify the lead. And we see from here, if the lead is a good fit, it gets an offer. If the lead is a bad fit, it does not get an offer, and we follow up with them, right? That's kind of the sales process that we follow from a very broad view, right? I'm not trying to go in here and tell you each step of the way, step by step. No, because then that's going to put you into analysis paralysis, and that's what we don't want, right? This is a very good sales process to follow. When your lead comes in, make sure you call the lead in 5 minutes, because every single time that you let that lead go untouched, somebody else is trying to call that lead, right? So you want to make sure you're getting in front of the leads first. And then from there, when you're on the phone with the lead, just qualify them, see if they're a good fit to work with you, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to run into people who aren't even interested in selling their property at a discount. So you might as well just get off the phone with them within the first 4 minutes, so you don't waste all your time trying to make an offer to someone who's not even interested in selling their property to you to begin with. Now, your job is to qualify these people, not convince them to sell their house to you. You want to have a good sales process, but your goal is not to convince someone to sell their property to you if they have no interest in working with you to begin with. Now, are some sellers going to be tough to deal with? Yes, absolutely. You're going to have some sellers that you run into that are a little bit iffy and they're harder to get to the finish line, but if they're actually motivated, that's the people you want to work with, right? So let's jump into that really quick. What is the qualifying framework? Okay, so talk to people who are truly motivated, right? You want to be calm and confident because a lot of these sellers and homeowners can smell your commission breath. They can actually smell it. And you want to actually listen to the homeowner, right? So this is the framework we follow. Once the lead comes in, we get on the phone with the homeowner, we check condition, we check timeline, we check motivation, and we check price. Now, we don't get on the phone with the homeowner and we say, hey, what's the condition of your property? Okay, perfect. What's the timeline? When do you want to sell? Okay, great. Why do you want to sell? What's your motivation? And then, okay, do you have a price? Like, that's going to throw the seller off completely, right? That's not how we do it. We want to be personable and we want to actually listen to the seller on all of these things, right? And then when we get into the motivation side of things, we want to dig for pain very gently. We don't want to come across very hard or very, I would say, like Wolf of Wall Street boiler room, right? You don't want to come across like that because you have to remember you're trying to buy someone's house over the phone. And like, think about how crazy that is for a second. Like, you're on the phone with these people trying to buy their house. That's like one of their biggest decisions ever of them selling their house. So you have to resonate with that and you have to be there for them and listen to them and care for them. And honestly, you're the expert. So be the expert and sound like the expert. Don't sound like a noob who's just trying to get a deal. Like, you're never gonna get a deal doing that because, like I said, these sellers can smell commission breath, right? Don't be afraid to tell them they're not a good fit if they're not a good fit, because believe it or not, a lot of these sellers will end up coming back to you if you push them away. That's the craziest thing, right? If you show that you don't have commission breath and you show that, like, yeah, we're not the best fit for everybody. We don't purchase every single property we come across, then now you look a little bit more exclusive, which is why they would want to go with you in the long run. That's kind of like some psychology stuff. I don't know why it works. I'm not a psychology expert, but it ends up working, right? So in the framework, when a lead comes in, you want to qualify them and you want to get the condition of the property, talk to them, find out their timeline of when they're looking to sell, when they're looking to move, get their motivation, figure out why they want to sell, right? Because that's the whole point, right? If you're dealing with someone who doesn't even know why they're on the phone with you to begin with, then they're probably not somebody you want to work with. And then figure out their price, right? Like, because at the end of the day, we do need to get these properties at a good price. We want to make sure we're working with people who are flexible on price or reasonable on price. So let's jump into that really quick. Let's look at some red flags to look for when you're dealing with these types of homeowners. So zero motivation is a big one, right? So, hey, you called me. Why are you looking to sell? You called me, right? That's a pretty big red flag that a lot of people, when you run into that, that's right off the bat, like, you can tell, like, okay, this person may or may not be the person that we're going to work with in the future because they're already saying, well, hey, you called me, right? They're unrealistic on price. So this is a big one, right? If you come in and you're like, you get the motivation and you go to transition a price and you say, well, hey, Mr. Seller, how much are you looking to get for this property? Oh, well, you guys called me. You make me an offer. Make me an offer. Or let's say, for example, the Zestimate's $200,000, and which we don't go off of Zestimate, but let's just say for this example, it's $200,000, and they're asking like $500K. Well, at that point, like, okay, this person is not being realistic at all. They're being over the top, asking $300,000 over what Zillow says the property's worth. So 9 times out of 10, that's somebody who we're not going to end up working with. Or they're upselling the home. This is a big red flag to watch out for when you ask for condition, because this is one of the first things that we ask in the qualifying framework. It's like, well, hey, what's going on with the property? So. And they say, oh, it's a great property. It's on 4 acres of land. We just got new cabinets in our kitchen, just got new hardwood floor. 9 times out of 10, that's somebody who we're not going to work with because they're upselling their house to us. They're telling us every little thing about the property, how great it is, this and that. And then at the end of the day, they're probably going to be asking over retail price for it. So that's why that's a big red flag to watch out for, is like, if you're upselling your house, we're probably not going to end up working with that homeowner, because at the end of the day, our goal is to figure out, is there a true need to sell this property? So, for example, a good question, when I worked for this wholesaling company a couple years back, their biggest thing was they always said, Figure out if the homeowner wants to sell or they need to sell, right? Is this a want? Like, do they want to sell to move into a bigger house, or they want to sell to move into a smaller house because they don't like all the space anymore? Figure out what it is. If it sounds more like a need, if they need to sell, this is someone who we want to work with. We want to work with people who need to sell. Now, we can work with people who want to sell as well if they're realistic on the other things. But our goal in wholesaling is to work with people who truly need to sell. We're in the problem solving business. They have a problem. We're here to help them solve it, right? Okay, so those are some of the red flags we look at when we go to qualify these homeowners or these leads when they come in. Now, what are some of the green flags that we can look for? Now, some green flags is true motivation. These people have a need to sell, not just a want to sell. Okay, not only that, they're flexible on price. Okay, you ask them, what they're looking to sell their property for, and let's just say again, for the prime example, Zillow says $200,000. Now, again, like I said, we don't go off as estimate, but for this example, they say 200,000, or Zillow says 200,000, and they're like, oh, we're looking to get somewhere around 200, 220. They could even say 250, right? It sounds like they're reasonable, like, because they don't know at the end of the day what their house is worth. They're not the expert, but they're close enough to what that Zillow range says. So it's easier to work with people like that to begin with. Now, maybe another green flag would be they have an urgent timeline. They need to get this property sold ASAP. They're looking to move forward ASAP. They're looking to find someone to buy their house ASAP. They're looking to sign a contract ASAP. That's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for people who have an urgent timeline. And another one is like, it kind of goes hand in hand with the urgent timeline. They're looking to make a decision and sign a contract today. They're not just looking for an offer, right? And you'll realize that the more people you talk to and the more offers you make, etc., you're going to realize like, okay, is this person like just trying to upsell me their property so that way they can just get an offer? Or are they looking to actually work with me and make a decision because they're facing a pretty difficult time? Now, is every single homeowner facing something crazy difficult? Absolutely not. It could be something as small as just wanting to downsize. However, have we worked with people who strictly just want to downsize? Yes, absolutely. Now, are those our ideal candidates? No, probably not, because the way we make our money is by getting super discounted properties, finding a buyer who's willing to pay more for that property than what we have it under contract for, and then selling it to that buyer. That's simply the basics of this business. And if you can stick to the basics of finding super discounted properties and selling them for more to a buyer, you'll never not make money in this industry. Now, the next thing is, how do we know what to even offer to these homeowners, right? We've never made an offer before. We're not a real estate agent. We don't look at the MLS and things like that. So how do we know what to offer? You'd be surprised. A lot of people who get into the wholesaling space stress about this more than anything else because they don't know how to make offers, right? So I put a video example on here that I'm going to have you guys watch. But basically what the video goes over is look for recent similar local comps. We're looking for properties that have just sold recently that look similar to ours in our area. So for example, in Atlanta, we're not looking for people who sold their property in Savannah, Georgia. We're looking at the people who sold their property in Atlanta. I know it sounds self-explanatory, but at the same time, we want to look for recent similar local sold comps. Okay, and in those sold comps, we're looking for same size, same bed, bath, similar size, and year built. We want to go for the same style. So and I go over this in the video, but just a quick example, like we're looking for properties. If it's a brick ranch house, we want to look for more brick ranch houses that's sold. We don't want to look for a split level house that's sold because that's not the same style as ours. You know what I mean? And then a big thing is we want to look at properties 90 days max. We don't want to go anything further than 90 days because if you start going out further than 90 days, you have to think about the season that you're in, right? So right now it's Thanksgiving and Christmas. So properties that sell around this time are going to be different than properties that sell in the summer, etc. Right? So that's like a big thing that we do. We only look at properties 90 days out. We don't look at sales from the last 6 to 12 months because the market changes and things like that. And pro tip, if you guys are doing novations or you want to learn how to do novations, then make sure you're looking at what's currently pending on the market that you're looking in. That way you can see what you can list your properties on the MLS for. All right, so let's try to watch this video really quick. What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are enjoying the course right now. In this video, I'm just going to do a brief breakdown of how we underwrite properties in my current business. So this is a property. of a seller that we're dealing with at the moment. And this guy is actually asking $185,000 for his property. And I assume it's this one right here. So our goal is to find a property very similar to this one to see what our property could sell for and what we could sell it to an investor for. All right, so this is how we look at it. We just look at the address. We don't really care about the Zillow estimate or the Zestimate. We're just going to take a look at the bed count, the bath count, square footage, and the year built. So as you can see here, this is a 3.2, 1,400 square feet, built in 1989. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click off, and here's our subject property right here. We're just going to zoom out and see what's sold in the area. Okay, we have this one right here for 276. Okay, this one's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,300 square feet, built in 1954. And as you can tell from this looks very fixed up, and it's brick. I don't think ours was a brick, so you got to take that into account as well. Let's see how long it took this one to sell. Okay, so they listed it for sale in August for 340. Price change, price change, price change, and then it sold to pending 279. Okay, so this one went pending in November and they listed it in August. So as you can tell right here, the good price point is around 275 for ARV if our house had a little bit of brick. So let's keep looking, see if we can find something that matches our property a little bit better. Okay, and we're a little bit too wide right now, but it's all good. Okay, so we got that's a 4-3. Let's keep looking. Okay, this one has siding. I don't think this one. Oh no, that one's a brick as well. Okay, this is a 3.2, 1,300 square feet, built in 1955, and this one sold for about 250, so a little bit less than the other property. Then we got this one that sold at 275. That one's also brick. I want to see if we can find one with some siding here instead of just brick. Okay, what is this? It's very blurry. I can't tell if that's brick or not, but it's also built in 1959. Let's just keep looking. Keep looking here. Okay. So this is a good comp because this is a good property to comp because if we can't find anything with siding, we're just going to find something that is very close to what our property looks like. And okay, this one's brick. So I would take this one into account. 225, 3.2, 1,200 square feet, built in 1959. Let's see if we got anything right here. Okay, so this one isn't updated at all. We got just hardwood, tiled kitchen, nothing crazy right here. There's an unfinished basement. Okay, 600 square feet. Okay, so this one sold for 225, and it sold pretty quick. They listed it for sale in September, on September 20th. It went pending the 3rd, and then so this was likely a cash offer. If I had to, just based on how quick it went from pending to sold, I would say this was cash. If I had to guess. So, taking a look at this right here, I would say this is a really good comp. So, from here, we'll just go to our calculator, and I think the current market value of our property could probably sell for about 225. Okay? So, as you can see here, let's just say our property needs about $20,000 in repairs. And this is us if we're going to list the property on the MLS, by the way. So our first offer, as you can see, it's very low because we always want to hit a very low cash offer first, and then our no access offer, which is just our MAO for wholesale to flip it to an off market investor, and then we have our MAO offer. And for this, we shouldn't offer more than about 145. Can we offer a little bit more? Yes. Do we want to? Probably not, just so we can maintain our spread. So that's just a quick rundown of how we do comps in our business. Again, if you want access to that calculator and things like that, I do have a link below to join my school community where we can help you, give you all the tools, access to me, and help you scale your business. And then there's also a link to book a one-on-one call with me where I can help you grow your business, etc. So I hope you guys got some value from this and enjoy the rest of the course. So that's just a brief rundown of how we run comps in our business. All right, so moving forward is making the offer, right? Because that's the biggest part. So we know what we can sell the property for on the MLS if we're doing a novation. But if we're not doing a novation, we know what we need to offer, okay? So when you go to make the offer, this is the most crucial part. We always, always, always want to go for a one call close. The reason being is because if we let these sellers off the phone and they go talk to another company, they do a one call close, well, they're probably going to get the contract signed and you're going to be following up with these people forever. And they're going to tell you like, hey, I already got the contract signed. So this is a way to increase your close rate by simply never letting them off the phone. I know it sounds pretty self-explanatory, but we don't want to let these people off the phone because simply if we say, oh, let me call you back with an offer, well, they're going to call another company and get an offer from another company. Okay. So go for a one call close and you want to use logic. We're letting these homeowners know what their property is actually worth because we're the expert, right? We're using logic, not emotion. I know you want X amount for your property, but your property isn't in the condition that your neighbor sold their property for $300,000. You know what I mean? And always explain the next steps to the homeowner before you make the offer. Now, we do this in all of our offer calls. We explain what the next steps look like before we actually give the offer. So typically how these calls go, Mr. Seller, is I'll let you know what the property qualified for. If that's a number that you want to move forward with, I would then send a written agreement over to your email that we could then go over together. Sound fair? Yeah, sounds fair. Fantastic. So now they know what the next steps are. Okay. And always use a specific number, just like in the video that I just showed you where we're getting our offers. We always want to make a specific offer. We don't want to come in and say, oh, yeah, your property, I can give you $180,000 for your property. Okay, cool. But how much cooler does it sound? How much more professional does it sound if you say, well, Mr. Seller, it looks like your property qualified for $183,256.22. Sounds a lot more professional than just $180,000. So they actually think that their property was qualified and underwritten, and it makes everything look a lot more professional. Okay. So after you make an offer with these homeowners, you need to go silent. Now, I'm not doing a full sales training or anything like that, but that's the biggest thing that I see a lot of new wholesalers run into is they make their offer and then they just like keep talking and keep rambling and don't give the homeowner time to respond or even think about it. So it's like, yep, we can pay you $180,000 for your property. Now we're going to send the contract. And it's like, whoa, bro, calm down a second. Just tell them the offer and then just go silent. See what they say. Okay. So now let's get into getting the actual contract signed. Okay. So when you get the contract signed, you're explaining the next steps, right? So let's say you made an offer for $183,253 and they're like, okay, that sounds good. Perfect. So like I mentioned earlier, Mr. Seller, next steps would just be for me to send over a written agreement to your email. What's a good email for you? Simple as that. We don't want to go complex and start overselling or telling them what we're doing or going back into the process of it. We're simply just telling them, hey, all right, like I said earlier, the next steps are for us to send over an agreement. So what's a good email on file that I can send this over to? Boom, done. Don't overcomplicate it. All right. And we always, always, always go over the agreement while on the phone with them. We never want to just send them the agreement and say, here's the agreement. Let me know when it's signed and then hang up. I've seen people run into that before, and I've seen people do that before. It's never a good thing. I've seen people do that in the past, and it's never good because the seller doesn't know what a lot of these terms mean, and they freak out, they panic, and you just never hear from them again. Always go over the agreement with them over the phone so they know what they're signing and they know what they're getting into. All right, get confirmation again that they will sign when you send them this agreement. It's like in the past, Mr. Seller, I typically just go over what these terms mean line for line. But everything checks out. Everything looks good. I take it. We plan on moving forward today, correct? Yes. Okay, perfect. Now we can go into it, get the agreement signed, and get the signature. Now, once you get the signature, you're not done. Okay? We got the contract signed. Congratulations. Now what, right? So at a high level, the last role in the business is dispositions. So you did great. You learned marketing. You learned how to do sales. You got the contract signed. Now what? Now you got to go make some money because contracts don't make you money. Dispo makes you money. Selling the deals and finding the buyers is what makes you the money, right? So this is our Dispo role responsibilities, okay? So once we get the contract signed, we always do an intro call with our Dispo rep. Now, what that intro call entails, it explains the next steps so the seller isn't left wondering, well, what the heck is next, right? And we always confirm times to do walkthroughs with our buyers or our contractors, whatever it is, right? So that's Dispo's role. Now, since you're a one-man shop, if you're just starting out, this is your role. You're doing everything, right? So once you get the contract signed, just let them know like, hey, I'm going to be in touch over the next few days. When's a good time I can send a couple of my contractors out to the property to take a quick walkthrough? That way we can see what we're working with and get some pictures scheduled. Okay? That's as simple as that. Don't overcomplicate this. It's as simple as that. So the next step that our Dispo team does is just evaluates the deal. Okay, they make sure that ARV is correct. They determine what exit that we're going to do for this property, and we confirm that the offer makes sense for a cash buyer or if it makes sense for an MLS retail offer. Okay, so that's what our Dispo team is going to do for you. You guys should have already done that on the front end, just verifying everything. Make sure, like, okay, if we get the property at this price, we can sell it on the MLS at this price, or if we get the property at this price, we can sell it to a cash buyer at this price. This is what our Dispo team is doing on all of our deals. We want to make sure that we're doing the right exit for the deal that we got. Okay? Don't overcomplicate this, guys. Now, the next step is to get that deal in front of as many buyers as possible. Okay, so if you're doing cash, you're going to send that property out to a bunch of your cash buyers, or you're going to send it out to your agents or call a couple of agents and see if they have investors who are interested in buying in that area. Okay, now the other thing you can do is get the property listed on the MLS. So if you're doing novations or you want to learn how to do novations, then this is where you're going to maximize your buyer pool. The MLS is the easiest way to maximize the number of eyes that you get on the property. Okay? Again, our goal is just to get these deals in front of the buyers so we can get offers and see where we're at. All right? Now, once those offers come in, our goal for Dispo is to now negotiate those offers. So just because somebody offered, let's say we have a property under contract for 150 and somebody offers 170. What's a 20K spread? You're probably thinking that's great. Well, why don't we try to negotiate it? They don't know what we have the property under contract for because we don't tell them. Why don't we try to negotiate it, see if we can get them up to 175 or 180, maybe even 185. So now you take a 20K spread, you turn it into $25, $30, even $35,000, and you make $5, $10, or $15,000 more than what you were originally were going to make. Okay. Now the biggest thing here is we want to push urgency, right? That's a terrible arrow once again, but we want to push urgency on these people. So what we do is, we'll go into more urgency stuff on the next one, but we're really pushing urgency when we negotiate these offers. But we want to make sure the terms fit us. We don't want to have terms that fit the buyer necessarily or make it a win-win, right? We do want to make it a win-win for a couple of these buyers, but again, we're the ones selling it. If they want the property bad enough, then they will put in a really good offer with really good terms. We're always shooting for the highest and best offer. Now, the reason we push urgency is because when we show these properties, we actually line up as many buyers to go out to the property at the same time. So it creates some sort of tension like, dang, there's a lot of interest in this property. I need to put in a good offer. Now, my Dispo rep learned that from the past company she was with, and it's been working great ever since we've been using it. And it really, really creates some of that urgency. And also what Dispo is doing when we do show the property is we're coordinating with the seller or the tenant or the homeowner, whoever lives there, and the buyers, right? We never just want to send people out there and let them show up whenever they want. We always want to coordinate it so that way they know, hey, somebody's coming out there. Or if it's on a lockbox, we make sure that they have the lockbox code, where the key is, etc., things like that. So again, that's from a high level what Dispo does, right? Now, again, what is the ultimate goal of Dispo? Sell deals. Sell the deal. This is just a process that we follow in our business that allows us to sell our deals for the max that we can, right? Now, again, we want to be able to get as many contracts as possible and then be able to turn around and execute on those and sell them to as many buyers as possible, right? So from a high level, this is how you should be running your wholesale operation. Just to reiterate, you have the marketing side of the business where you're generating the leads. You have the sales side of the business where you're selling those leads or getting those deals under contract to buy their property using sales. And then on the back end, we're selling those deals to cash buyers on the Dispo side to make the money, right? So this is from a high level how this business runs. And If you guys can take what I just told you and implement it into your business, however you do your business, there is no way you can't succeed. This is exactly what we do in my business today. I didn't want to give you guys too much information to where it's just information overload, and now you don't know what to do. You guys know what to do. Go out, find people who want to sell their property for discounted prices using marketing strategies that I showed you in here. Sell to those people by telling them what you offer, how you're different from every other company out there who's trying to buy their property. And then on the dispo side, you find your buyers by either cash buyers or listing your properties on the MLS to get max exposure, sell your properties, make your money. And that's how the business runs, guys. Don't overcomplicate this. Stick to the basics. And if you can stick to the basics for 100 days straight, I guarantee you, you will go out and close your first wholesale deal. Now, if you got any sort of value from this video whatsoever, and you want help learning how to scale your business to consistent $20,000 to $50,000 months, I put a link in the description to book a one-on-one call with me where I'll go over where you're at in your business and see how I can help you grow to consistently make 20 to 50K per month. With all that being said, I hope this video gave you guys enough value and enough clarity to go out and get your first wholesale deal. And if it did, make sure to leave a like and comment. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.